the College of Human Sciences at Iowa State University, expanding human potential, improving people's lives.
Professors, associate professors, doctors, lecturers, and all audiences. Welcome to the online webinar on hospitality research methods. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. This online webinar is jointly organized by the Faculty of Hotel and Tourism Management, University Technology Makra Cawangan Pulau Pinang, with the Department of Apparel, Events, and Hospitality Management, Iowa State University, United States of America. This program is now live streaming via UITM Pulau Pinang official YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are blessed to have two esteemed speakers, Associate Professor Dr. Jae-Woo Kim and Associate Professor Dr. In-ha Jeong, to share with us about hospitality research methods. This will be a 2-hour webinar. Let's get yourself a coffee or tea and make yourself comfortable. To all attendees, if you have any questions related to the webinar, feel free to post on the chat box. Our team will pick up the questions and we will read your question later. Now, I would like to welcome our first speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Jae-Woo Kim, to deliver his talk on AI, analytics, and hospitality management research. Okay, Dr. Jae-Woo, this screen is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me today. Mhm. And before we dive into the interesting presentation topic today, and allow me to introduce myself first. I'm Jeo Kim, Associate Professor in Hospitality Management, Iowa State University. I also serve as the co-director of the Department Analytics Lab, and also I'm a chair of the Department Curriculum Committee. My main research area is business analytics and strategy management. I'm passionate about exploring. Let me move to slide. Okay. So I'm passionate about exploring the transformative potential of the data analytics and its impact on business decision making. By applying the advanced statistical methods and the analytics techniques, I strive to uncover the actionable business insights. And I hope such business insights can drive the strategic initiatives and contribute to industry advancement. Throughout my career, I have been actively involved in the analytics research. I'm very excited to share with you some insights and the text analytics methods from my research endeavors. I'm going to start with the discussion how advanced data analytics has transformed the landscape of academic research. New techniques and new methods have been rapidly introduced in academia. The pace is getting faster and faster. With these new tools, researchers now have unprecedented opportunities to gain business insights and advanced business knowledge. How data analysis has transformed the hospitality and tourism research then. Let's take a look at some statistics. And these figures highlights the growth and diverse applications of data analysis in the hospitality and tourism field. In terms of the volume, data analysis studies in hospitality and tourism has remarkably grown. According to a study by Mariani and Baggio in 2022, the number of analyst articles published between 2015 and 2020 is greater than 7 times the total number of papers published in the preceding 35-year period from 1980 to 2015. They also investigated the data types analyzed, and 47% of papers used user-generated contents, which are the online reviews, and the 36% device data, and 70% transaction data. Another research group found that out of 85 analytics studies between the 2000 and 2018, 64 studies used text analytics, including sentiment analysis and topping modeling, and the 27 studies employed geospatial analysis. With these analytics, and we can notice one interesting fact, which is hospitality and tourism analytics research has primarily focused on analysis of user-generated contents, analysis of online reviews using text analytics. Now that we have discussed how data analytics has grown in the hospitality and tourism research, let's take one step further to explore the generative artificial intelligence. And this is the new groundbreaking technology which has suddenly emerged in the last year, 2022. This technology has swiftly drawn enormous attention and become an integral part to many researchers and even industry practitioners. Before we discuss the generative AI, let's look at some key concepts. Let's start with artificial intelligence, AI. AI refers to a machine's ability to perform cognitive functions, and these cognitive functions have been once exclusive to human minds. And these cognitive tasks include perceiving the environment around us, reasoning through complex problems, learning from experiences, and even demonstrating creativity. But the machines and follow this kind of tasks of humans, and they can do this work. And within this realm of AI, we have a subset called machine learning. Machine learning involves the development of algorithm, and these algorithms enable machines and computer systems or some kind of software to learn from data and improve their performance over time. By training these algorithms on vast amounts of data, machines can recognize patterns, make the predictions, and automate various tasks. Machine learning has paved and different and various ways for significant advancements in data analytics, including predictive modeling and forecasting and prescriptive analytics. Then what is the deep learning? You may be confused with the deep learning and machine learning. Then what is the difference between the deep learning and the machine learning? And deep learning is the specific subset of machine learning. Deep learning involves training artificial neural networks, and artificial neural networks has multiple layers to process and analyze complex data. And these networks are designed to mimic the structure and functionality of the human brain. So neural networks can uncover complex patterns and complicated relationships within the data. Deep learning has proven to be exceptionally powerful in some tasks such as image recognition, natural language processing, and speech synthesis. Okay. And with the foundation of AI and machine learning and deep learning, and we are going to explore the concept of generative AI and its profound impact on hospitality and tourism research. Generative AI is a remarkable branch of AI, and this branch focuses on the creation and the generation of new contents. It involves training models to learn patterns and characteristics and features from existing data. And this training is done using powerful deep learning algorithms called transformers. Once these models are trained, and these machines can generate entirely new data such as images, text, or even entire simulation based on patterns and insights derived from existing data. The new data has the similar traits and features to the original data, but it is unique and originally new. The capabilities of the generative AI have opened up new possibilities for creativity, innovation, and problem solving. And it can be applied to the various fields, including hospitality and tourism. And these are the example of AI generated images. So that these are the very good illustrations, and then is the sports garments, sports wears. And so the illustrations and fashion design are one of the areas where generative AI has rapidly replaced human labor. And these generative AI techniques have been widely used to improve the capability of chatbot. As a result, new type of chatbot became available to the public. As many of us know that ChatGPT 3.5 was released in November 2022. Also, Google's Bard became accessible from March this year. And these generative AI chatbots can understand users' input, and so they can generate appropriate responses and simulate human-like conversations. They are often more flexible and sometimes capable of handling wider range of the conversational scenarios with problem-solving skills. And more importantly, these chatbots are rapidly evolving. And so academic scholars is tested these chatbots, and professors from Illinois Tech and Michigan State College of Law and tested ChatGPT 3.5 and with the multi-state bar exam. Bar exam is the exam to be a lawyer in the United States. And in their research paper, and they showed the machine GPT 3.5 got a pass on two categories of the bar exam. And usually, and bar exam is different state by state, but usually bar exam has six categories, excuse me. And also the new version of the GPT and GPT-4 scored in top 10% on a simulated bar exam. And according to the OpenAI, the creator of the ChatGPT, and ChatGPT-4 can engage in much more interactive and contextually rich conversations. So it allows for more in-depth discussions and exchanges of information. Then how to apply generative AI to analytics research? And there are so many different the passes the generative AI can help the data-related tasks. But today we're going to look at the generative AI. We're going to look at how generative AI can help the automate data collection and data pre-processing tasks. Before I show some examples of automated text analytics, let me discuss a little more about the data preprocessing, in particular, transforming and preparing data for analysis. Once text data has been collected, it must be processed for data analysis because text data itself and they are unstructured. So one of the important data processing in text analytics is to convert unstructured raw text data into the structured data in a usable form. Then, what is unstructured data? Unstructured data refers to any type of data that doesn't have a predefined structure or the predefined organization. So it doesn't fit into the traditional databases or tables. Then let's look at this one example in our slide. Then there is the two reviews, the reviews on some the restaurants, and in that their opinion is in the text format. Then this text format we cannot analyze them. And like this, unstructured data are very difficult for us to analyze. And these are the unstructured data typically include the text, audio recordings, images, and videos. On the other hand, the structured data are organized and so can be easily analyzed. Academic researchers have mainly used the structured data because of its convenience. And so as you can see in this example, the structured format of text data is easily understood. We can easily understand, we can easily analyze. So they are in the tabular format, and there are two observations, and review 1 and review 2, and there are the two variables, food and service. Also, we can see the observations, opinions on each variable, positive or negative. So using that information, we can analyze how the customers of this restaurant is assess and evaluate the restaurant's food and service. So like this, and we can get the very important and unique and meaningful insights from the unstructured data. Although the structured data can give us much more convenience, so we can easily identify the meaningful insights from them, then is that there is lots of potential regarding the unstructured data. So there has been the increasing demand for the analysis of unstructured data. Then what should we extract from text for data analysis through data transformation? Two tasks should be done to convert the text into the structured data. The first one is the aspect detection. The goal of aspect detection is to identify and classify the aspects or topics being discussed in the text. For example, in a restaurant review, we can identify the aspects including food quality, ambience, service, pricing, and the price perception as well. The next task is sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis is a technique to determine the sentiment or emotional tone expressed in a piece of text. It involves analyzing and categorizing text or data to identify whether the sentiment is positive, negative, or neutral. The goal of sentiment analysis is to understand and extract subjective information from the text, such as opinions, attitude, and emotions. Then, thank you. Then let's explore how we can utilize ChatGPT to collect and analyze reviews from a restaurant app, specifically Uber Eats. So that means, okay, so okay. Can we go back? No? Okay. So through this process we're gonna collect and reviews from a restaurant app and the Uber Eats app, and then we convert those reviews on Uber Eats app into the structured data with sentiments. To begin, we will use the Python to collect the latest 1,000 app reviews on the Uber Eats app from the App Store. In addition to the data collection task, I would like to save the reviews collected in my computer. So to get the code for this data collection, I'm going to use the ChatGPT. And so I created prompt for this task. Could you start this one from the beginning? Okay, yeah. So this is the ChatGPT. So, and then I created the prompt for the data collection. Then ask ChatGPT to create code for the data collection like this. This is actually real speed of the ChatGPT. Then, upon executing this prompt in ChatGPT, I'm receiving this code necessary for data collection. Okay. Once we have this recommended code, we can copy this code and then using Python and then run this code. And to use the Python, I'm going to use another kind of the idle, the Jupyter Notebook. So I'm going to open the Jupyter Notebook to run the code in the Python. And to do that, I want to copy this entire code. And I can do that by easily by clicking the code. Where is that? Okay. I can do that very easily by clicking the button on the top right corner of that. Okay. Then this is the Jupyter Notebook, and then I paste the code here, and then execute it. Then this code is for the 1,000 reviews on Uber Eats app. But I run this code, and then running that code. Then unfortunately, speed is too fast. Unfortunately, rather than instead of the collecting the 1,000 reviews, this time I collected only the 260 reviews. It happens a lot. There are lots of kind of the obstacles I have to tackle, but yeah, sometimes yeah, this is a very kind of the the general situations that the analytics researchers are facing. So, but we try to figure this out. But when I record this video, so I have to, I managed to collect only 260 reviews. I hope you understand that. So we're gonna use the 260 reviews. And also I asked the ChatGPT that if I can download all the reviews and then save them in the CSV file, then as you can see, the code in the last lines of the code, then you can see that all the data are saved in a CSV file, and then is that CSV file goes to the working directory. And that file name is the Uber Eats iOS app reviews. Now, first task is done. I collected 260 reviews. Then I saved the reviews in my computer. Then the next task is to get the sentiments of that. Then before that, I want you to know the one thing regarding the ChatGPT. That this data collection process looks very simple, but reality is not. It is important to mention that the final code I ended up using was not the initial recommendation from ChatGPT. Such initial codes provided ChatGPT needed to be revised multiple times to address the several error messages I encountered when I ran those codes. And ChatGPT can occasionally and very often provide unreliable information. That is the biggest challenge the ChatGPT has. And even although the new version can provide much dependable result. So when we are working with the ChatGPT, we always should check whether the information from ChatGPT is correct or not. But I'm pretty sure that the ChatGPT can be a valuable tool when we resolve all the different kind of errors and during the coding revision process. Also, it can help us to save a lot of time because they can give the very different solutions that never comes up in my mind. And so the ChatGPT can give the very good starting point and we can come from. Okay? And furthermore, I'm currently using the GPT 3.5 for this demonstration because that is the free version. So, but the GPT-4, we have to subscribe to GPT-4, so $20 per month. And GPT-4 can provide much more dependable result. So if you want to have that information, you can use that service. Also, it is worth mentioning that the ChatGPT becomes much more reliable when, as we give the more specific the backgrounds and more specific questions with the detailed background information. So we need to refine our prompt to get what we want, and that is called the prompt engineering. Okay? Let's return to the task. Now we have the unstructured data in the form of reviews. Our next step is to convert all the reviews I collected into the structured data and perform the sentiment analysis. For this task, I'm going to use the NLP package. Then I'm going to ask the ChatGPT to provide us with the code for sentiment analysis using NLP. Then I'm going back. to the ChatGPT and then make the prompt for this work, sentiment analysis. And then as the machine, the ChatGPT did for the data collection, it's gonna give me the codes and the package information I should install. Like this. This is the code. And then is the machine gives me the package information. And then you can also see the very specific description about the code. Also, if you take a close look at each command line, you can see what kind of information and what kind of the function is performed with each command. However, this time I used a different kind of updated codes as I did for the data collection. Some modification and some additions were required to successfully complete this sentiment analysis. And like this, you have to do some work with ChatGPT. And as a result of the running the sentiment analysis code, and for that one, I'm gonna copy this code like I did, and then go to the Jupyter Notebook to run the Python, and then copy that code, and then paste it, and then run the code. Then I obtained the various outputs. Now we can see the number of sentences with the positive and negative sentiments. Among the 260, the reviews, and the 98 reviews have a positive tones. And the remaining 152 reviews have the negative tone. But we can also see the reviews along with their sentiments in a tabular format. They are in the middle. And additionally, we can examine the frequency of words associated with the negative sentiments. And this information provides insights into the main complaints from Uber Eats users. Main complaints were about the orders, food, and the app itself. Also, we can find that complaints related to drivers and delivery appears to relatively less compared to other aspects. And like this, we can use this structured form of text for the data analysis. Let's move to the next video. In this slide, I'm going to demonstrate automated text analytics tools. And I'm going to show how to use the R-based app I have developed for my analytics course. I didn't use any direct assistance from ChatGPT when I created this app for my course, but I did actively utilize ChatGPT to make the revisions and the improvements for my summer class this year. And to do that, this time I'm going to use the R Studio. Okay. I'm going to start the video from the beginning. Then I click the Run App. Then the app is initiated, and all the packages are installed with the command. And then the app is opened in a web browser like this. Then on the left side of the app, we have 3 arguments: the find, near, and number. In the find field, we can specify the type of business we want to investigate. In the near field, we can enter the location or city we want to look at. The number field allows us to set the desired number of business to search. For this demonstration, I focused the hotels in Ames, Iowa. Ames is the city where the Iowa State University is located. And we will investigate 10 hotels in aims. So I put the information here. I'm gonna look at the hotels, and this city is aims. And then I'm gonna look at 10 hotels. Then I'm gonna initiate the search. Then the app will provide a list of 10 hotels in Ames, like you can see. We can also see the details about about the hotels, and those details include the overall ratings and the number of reviews and the business type. They are all hotels, and the price range. And next thing we're gonna do is to select the specific hotels for the review collection. In this case, I have chosen 5 hotels. First 5 hotels like this. And, and then after that, by clicking data collection button on the top, the R program will begin collecting reviews from each hotel's page on Yelp. And I click that. And then we can see that the machine, the RStudio, is collecting reviews. Then if we click the second tab, the data the collected reviews, and we can see all the kind of reviews for each hotel. And if needed, then we can download the review results. And we can do that by clicking the download review result on the top of the table. And also we can see all the reviews of the hotels like. Now we have all the hotel reviews we want. And our next step is to identify aspects or topics. And then we're going to conduct the sentiment analysis. And then for this, the aspect detection, I'll be using the widely used method called the LDA topping model. And this approach treats each text as the mixture of topics and each topic as a mixture of words. So it is assumed that each topic is expressed by the list of words frequently co-occurred in the text. To conduct this analysis, we need to determine the number of topics searched for beforehand. For example, if we are looking for the 3 topics on the reviews, LDA finds how often the words appear when a specific topic is described in text. Based on the result, we can identify a group of words closely associated with each topic, and then these words within a group can give a good description of what the topic is about. Then we can determine the themes of the 3 topics after reviewing the group of words for each topic. And when we do that, we're going to use the domain knowledge. But if the theme for each topic is not deterministic, then we should try the different number of topics. Then in this demonstration, I tried the 2 topics first. Then the app shows the 5 words associated with each topic by default. But we can change the number of topics and number of associated words each topic. So next time, I will try the 4 topics with 10 words, like this. Then we're gonna have the 4 topics, and then we're gonna have the 10 words for each topic. From this LDA analysis, we can extract the topics and related words. And based on the related words, and we can determine the theme of each topic. After identifying the topics, then we can estimate the sentiment scores for each topic and incorporate the sentiments as variables for hotels. And we can combine the sentiment scores of each topic with the hotel's rating, the volume, and price range. In the Scatterplots tab, as you can see, that we can visualize the hotels using these variables. Then we can see the hotel name in the first column, and second column shows rating, third column is the number of reviews and the price range. And then also we can see all the different sentiment scores for the topics. We can also download this table with the generated results by clicking download the table button on the bottom. And it will be saved in your working directory as a CSV file. And if you open that the CSV file, then we can see that this kind of table. And through this demonstration, I've showcased the automation of the text analytics process, from data collection to data processing and sentiment analysis. The automation process can be much more easily done by leveraging the generative AI tools like ChatGPT. Also, for the data collection and data processing, and for those tasks, we can also use the ChatGPT to get the code for such data-related tasks. So I hope my presentation is very helpful for your future research. Thank you for listening my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Jewu, for such a great sharing about AI, analytics, and hospitality management research. So I believe all of the audience learned a lot from today's session. So based on presentation, we could see that data analytics and AI tools have transformed education landscape, right? So there are so many opportunities and possibilities for researchers like myself to utilize AI for their research project. So it's interesting sharing session. So now we like to proceed with the Q&A session. We will start with the first question. One moment. Okay, first question. What are the challenges faced by researchers when they want to use AI or AI tools to collect or analyze the data and publish their papers related to AI?
Yeah, thank you for the questions. And the biggest challenge usual researchers have when they start using the AI is the difficulties of the concept of AI. And also we need to know some of the program language to run the AI. But interestingly, the ChatGPT like is AI, generative AI powered chatbot allow us to easily conduct the machine learning, the AI techniques. So that is called no code programming. Even though we don't know any kind of the programming language, we can actually run the code, and depending on the capability of the AI powered chatbot. So if you search for some kind of the ways to conduct no code programming, then you can get lots of advices and the instructions from the web. So it was really the big challenge only the statistician and computer science can do, but right now it is not. One of the computer science professors that asked the student to develop some kind of code, but asks the student to take the two steps. And the first step is to develop the code without any kind of assistance from ChatGPT. And in that first assignment, and computer science major student have the much better performance than non-computer science major student. But after that, that professor asked the student to get some assistance from ChatGPT, and then is the improved your code. And then is the professor found a very interesting result, because computer science major people's student performance is very similar to the non-computer science major students' performance. Why? Because non-computer science major students can make much better prompts using for the ChatGPT. They are the mainly from the social science and mainly from the some other the literature, some kind of the people, and they can make much better prompt, and so they can easily improve the computer code and to get the much better result. Like this, there are lots of ways we can use without some kind of programming language. So I hope and it is better for us to start as soon as possible and then get used to how to use such kind of AI powered machine.
Okay, thank you. Maybe Dr. Jewu, you can explain further, like how you motivate your students to utilize AI in the classroom, for example.
Yes, it is very. If they are not familiar with the new technology, then is that they may not have the much interest in using such kind of software and the new things. And so I try to give some kind of incentives, and then with kind of extra points or something. And also I try to make the assignments connected with the very real cases, and then is try to find the ways to develop some kind of the much better prompt for their tasks, and then so student can be motivated by that way. But
So, yeah, after some time, maybe they develop interest in using AI, right?
So for my the analyst course, I do not usually use the hotel data or the restaurant data. I usually use the movie data or the music data because everybody is interested in one of these two, the entertaining areas, right?
Exactly.
Right. And so I ask try to find out some kind of the interesting the summary of those the data, and then is that they try to use some kind of AI powered tools to get that result because they became very interested in those areas.
Yes, entertainment, movie and song, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have a second question?
I
Let me
missed that.
see. Okay, so the second question, as a faculty member, could you provide some suggestions for researchers and students on how to properly use AI tools when doing their research to avoid any unethical issues?
That is very interesting issues and very controversial. And I can definitely say that we not gonna use the such the generative AI powered chatbot for our writing, and that is to violate the plagiarism. That is a really serious problem, and we should not use this machine for the writing. And but except that, so uh, we can we can get some kind of summary of the such kind of ideas. And so we cannot collect all the different research ideas from the other research groups. And then is we can ask what kind of the research topics out there have been investigated so far in such such a specific area like a corporate social responsibility and or also or the some kind of consumer behavior in the luxury hotels. And then is the we can search for academic articles using AI powered tools, and then is to get some ideas what kind of the research ideas out there, and then how we can then improve the academic knowledge, and from that point. Okay, and so this is the I think this AI powered chatbot and generative AI can give a very high level of a starting point we never used it before. So before that, so it is very even though there are lots of information out there, it is very difficult for us to extract such information. But it is much easier and easier for us to get that kind of summary. Then such information became the starting point for further study and further development. And so right now and in the very near future, so the starting point for the research and innovative ideas and in the industry and in the academia, and they gonna have very high level of bar then because of this tool.
So maybe we need to educate researchers and also students about this thing, right? So that they do not depend too much on AI for writing their research papers.
So we have to give some kind of instructions how we can actively use that, and then is to make the more creative research ideas, more creative business suggestions, and based on that, because all the information we can get from the AI powered chatbot becomes the public information. Everybody's can access. So they not gonna have the very unique information. They can give the much improvements to the academia or the journal articles, our research, or the business areas. That's gonna be the starting point of all the kind of new innovative ideas and then the businesses.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jiu. I think we have the final question. Okay. Based on your experience, do you face any difficulties either from the journal editor or the reviewers when you want to publish papers related to AI or when you use AI for your analysis?
Do you face any difficulties from journal for reviews? It is I have the many requests from the journals on and asked me to the reviews different analyst articles, and also I submitted the paper and get the reviews from the journals, and often I think that is that there are not many kind of the experts that can give the very constructive feedback on the such papers. So that is the kind of difficulties we have. So sometimes we can get lots of the informations and ideas and from the reviewers, and so that we can improve the quality of the papers through the revision process. And that is the very important process for the academic researchers. But the not many lack of the experts that can actually give the constructive feedback on the analyst papers, and that is the kind of the situation in our field. But it is the getting and better because many of us are the focusing on the analytics, and then is the we can have the much better understanding of AI and then advanced techniques. Then is that we're gonna have the much more the collective the knowledge, and so that so we can have the better the knowledge extracted from that.
So it means that there are opportunities, right, for this AI, so that more researchers are venturing into AI kind of research, right? So that there will be more expert or more reviewers that can help with the review process.
Right. So I mentioned that indirective way, but it's sometimes they rejected my paper because they don't understand the concept and the ideas. And so that's the kind of difficulties the analytical researchers have. I mentioned that indirectly.
But I think because not many people are doing this, so there are challenges and also opportunities.
Yes, there can be definitely opportunities.
So I think we have one final question.
Okay.
A lot of people interested. Can you recommend us the number of code AI tools that you are currently using in your research?
Actually, I'm not using the no-code programming. I'm familiar with that, but it's actually I like developing code for that,
Mm.
and then I try to use that because they can give the much more customized function to the task. Is then I'm gonna search for that. So, and I heard this in some of the no coding programming. Uh, but as I'm gonna send that information to the Dr. Ahmed, and so she can share that information with you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you so much. I think that's all for your session. Thank you so much, Dr. Jae-woo, for your inputs, for your expertise in this AI analytics and also hospitality research method. So we hope to see many researchers doing this AI or utilize AI tools for their research. Okay, thank you, Dr. Jae-woo.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So it was the pleasure for me to the have time to share the things with you. Thank you.
Okay, most welcome. So, yeah, I think we will continue with the second part of the online webinar. I would like to welcome Associate Professor Dr. Yunha Elena Jeong to deliver her talk on unveiling the power of co-creation, exploring experimental design methods in investigating the appeal of co-created green initiatives in restaurant promotion. Okay, to all attendees, if you have any questions, feel free to post on the chat box. Okay, Dr. Yunha, the screen is
Yes.
yours.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nur Ahmed, and also Dr. Kim about AI sessions. It was very informative. And now we are going to switch the gears and talk about another research method in hospitality management, which is commonly used in our field, which is experimental design of the study. So again, good morning, everybody. So again, first of all, thank you so much for giving me this wonderful opportunity to participate and present hospitality research method webinar sessions. I'm Dr. Lena Jeong, an associate professor in hospitality management at Iowa State University. So Dr. Ahmed already mentioned, but the title of this webinar session is Unveiling the Power of Co-Creations, Exploring Experimental Design Method in Investigating Appeal of Co-Created Green Initiatives in Restaurant Promotion. So during this webinar sessions, I'm going to talk about what is experimental research method, especially factorial design is, as it is well used in the hospitality research. And then I will focus on how the factorial design of the experimental research can be applied by using one of the research paper that I have published in top tier journals with my formal PhD students, Xingyi Zhang, in University of North Texas. Next page, please. Okay, thank you. Before I start my presentation, I would like to briefly introduce myself. Again, my name is Lena Jeong, Associate Professor in Iowa State University, and I'm also the Director of Awesome Food Service Research Lab, and working mainly with graduate students who are interested in restaurant management and food service management research. And the next slide, please. Okay. As a researcher, I have expertise in consumer behavior and psychology, and also the service marketing and communications. I would say my research can be categorized into two different main themes. The first is healthy eating behavior and promotions, and the second theme is sustainability and green marketing. Under the first theme, I have conducted various different experimental design of the study and try to find our most effective way to promote healthy menu items to the customers. And under the second theme, which is sustainability, I would say my earlier study is more about developing a model to find out how those consumers perceived green practices or their perception of green image of the company influence their behaviors towards the green hospitality businesses. And these days, I'm also conducting experimental designs under the topic of upcycled food promotions and ugly food promotions, and also other sustainability practices, which is food waste reduction practices. I have published a number of top-tier publications such as IJHM and IGCHM, and receive research grant internally and externally, and best paper award from other various international conferences. So the QR code that I have provided in this slide is linked to my personal website. I upload most recent articles, publications. So if you want to learn more about my research, please use the QR code to visit my website. All right, so that's enough about my introductions, and let's dive straight to our topic, experimental design. So what is experimental research? So experimental method is a method of research that can truly test hypotheses concerning cause and effect relationship. So this cause and effect relationship can be is also the examinations of effect of independent variables onto the dependent variable that you are interested in. So here, the independent variable could be something that is manipulated through the treatment and in the interventions. And those effect of interventions, so independent variable, can be observed on the dependent variable of your interest. So let's take a simple example of the situation. So let's say we have developed a new medicine or new pill that can cure a certain diseases. So our hypothesis, or what we want to test, is if this newly developed pill can actually help cure those diseases, right? So your independent variable, or the cause of in this relationship, could be what? Yeah, taking the newly developed pills, right? And what about this effect, right? So the effect part would be, right, recovered from diseases. So that would be your dependent variable, and then the effect part of your interest. And next slide, please. It is also defined as observations under controlled conditions. So in other words, in order for researchers to confidently say that this observed effect on dependent variable is only happen because of the manipulations of the independent variable, those researchers should be able to control over the extraneous variables. So we can, I can explain this more easier way. We can go back to the example that I used, the medicine. So in order to confidently say that the recovery from the diseases is only due to taking the newly developed pill A, then all other medical conditions of the patient should be controlled in this case, so that we can purely measure the effect of the pill A. Okay, so those extraneous variable or the control, the situation should be, if the patient's taking another pills during the experiment, or they may have a different diseases during the experimental period, then that needs to be controlled or excluded, so that we can purely measure those effect of a pill A. So as I mentioned, when you are conducting experimental design of the study, very important things that you need to do is clearly define independent variable and your dependent variable, and also the control variable that I just mentioned. And the next slide, please. So let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of using experimental design of the research method. Advantage is, like I mentioned, you can use this method to test cause and effect relationship, meaning that you can infer the causations of certain variables that you're interested in. And also, it can produce the results that are clear and also easy to understand. So the statistical analysis after this experimental design, I'll explain it later, but it's very easy to understand and straightforward. So this is, if you are design this very clearly, the interpretations of the result part is not very difficult. So that's a really good part of the experimental design of the studies. However, disadvantage is that you cannot test the majority of the participants' variable as an independent variable, so such as their incomes and intelligence or their personality could be difficult for us to use as an independent variable. Because in order for us to avoid any biases or purely investigate the effect of independent variable, we need to randomly assign the participants into the different group when you are designing the experimental design, experimental research. So if you want to look at things like how does the income affect the behaviors, or how does intelligence or personality affect behaviors, you really cannot do this with the classic experiment, because you cannot really manipulate these things, and you cannot randomly assign the people to high or low intelligence. You can still measure the level of intelligence and level of incomes and assign them in a different group, high, low, but it is not really not the random assignment. So in this case, we can use something called quasi-experiment. And quasi-experiment, I don't know if you have heard of this, but this can be generally used to establish the causality in a situation where the researchers are not able to randomly assign the subject into the different group, or there are no control group available in the experimental studies. Yes, thank you. So there are many different types of experimental design and research method. So in this short webinar session, I cannot explain every single detail of it, but I pick a specific kind because it is very well used in our discipline, hospitality management, social science research. So that is factorial design. So the factorial design is can be used when you have a two or more independent variable, and that needs to be simultaneously manipulated and can be observed in the effect on the dependent variables. It can be useful when there are more than two independent variables called the factors to be tested. And this can facilitate the testing of the several hypotheses at a single time. So typical factor design incorporate 2x2 or 2x3 factorial, but this can become more complicated. So for example, in a top tier journal in IJHM, you see a lot of more complicated factorial design, like has 3 different factors, 2x2x2 or 2x2x3, something like that. So the factor here means different variable, and those number, so you have 2 different number, 2x2, that's 2 different factors, and under each factors you have 2 levels of the situation. So that's why they become 2x2, or 2x3 means one of the factor has 3 different layers. So this is an example of the factorial design of the study. So I pulled that from the Namgung and Zhang's 2013. So in their study, they examined the influence of green practices in a restaurant on green restaurant brand image, and also in visit intentions. And they are looking at this by the restaurant type. So restaurant type, as you see from the table, they tested 3 different types. So restaurant type can be one of the factors, so one of the variable. It has 3 different layers, like level, upscale, casual, and fast food. That's 3. And also they have another factor, another variable, meaning the type of green practices. So green practices has 3 different layers. Food focus, green practice, environmental focus, green practice, and control, which is no green practices. So they have 2 factors, and each factor has 3 levels. So that's become 3 by 3 design. I hope you understand it correctly. Okay. So to help better understand this factorial design of the experimental research method, I now use one of my study published in IJHM in the context of sustainability in hospitality management. And I'm going to focus on research method and show you how those factorial design can be applied and what statistical method or statistical analysis can be used. And at the end, I'm going to let you know how you can interpret the result properly. So the paper that I choose here is, the title is, "Are co-created green initiatives more appealing than firm-created green initiatives?" Let me dive into the paper. Okay, thank you. Let me start it with the background of the study. So in the recent year, restaurant business, they try to adopt the green marketing programs as they see that those marketing programs has a benefit. So for example, they can improve the overall image of the company and also improve the financial performance as well. However, the customers, they tend to be more skeptical about this green marketings because they perceive this green marketing as a tool that the company is utilized for their own goods. So the literature have mentioned that this conventional green marketings may have aggravated this customer's green skepticisms toward the company's green advertisement, because this conventional green marketing is treating the customers mainly as end users of the green product and services, and also fail to address the customer's ongoing participations in the process of producing the green value for the societies. So at the end, this could lower the customer's perceived effectiveness of their activities in the creating green values. And also it could reduce their overall intentions to engage in green consumptions. Next slide, please. And there's a literature called transformative green marketing. And this transformative green marketing has suggested that the companies should shift their focus from selling their company's designed product to the incorporating consumers or customers' effort in creating the green product. So that's where the co-creations concept can comes in. This co-creation advertisement appeal is referred to the message that describe the product that are co-created with the customers. And the literature have mentioned that it could improve the customer's involvement in the product designs and the delivery process, and it can produce customers' positive attitude and behaviors reactions toward the companies. However, limited research have investigated this influence of co-creation's appeal in the context of green communications. Next slide, please. So the key of this paper is that we wanted to investigate how the co-creation versus firm creation green appeal can impact consumers' behavioral intentions to the green restaurant. So that could be our one of the key factors in our study, and it has 2 different levels. So co-creation versus firm creation advertisement appeal. And also in the green marketing literatures, the message receiver's characteristics and also other situational factor is also important when you are concerning about the green communication. So we also identified two other key factors in our study. The first one is the characteristic of the receivers, which is the customer's level of involvement in environmental issues. So we have a high involvement versus low involvement group. So that is another factors, and it has another two layers underneath it. And then the last factor is situational factors. So depending upon where you go, the restaurant may have established very strong green image. For example, Starbucks has a very strong green image among the customers. However, other fast food restaurants such as McDonald's doesn't really perceive it as a green restaurant. So depending upon where people are going and what company are delivering this co-creative versus firm creative message, the reactions from the customers might be very different. So we choose another factor, which is situational factor called restaurants' green reputations, weak versus strong. So that is another third factors, and we have two different layers. So as I mentioned earlier, because we were talking about the vectorial design, there are 2 by 2, but this is specific study. So we have more complicated situation, which is 2 by 2 by 2. So 3 factors, and each factors has 2 different levels. Next slide, please. So in summary of this purpose of the study, the purpose of this study is to identify the effect of the co-creation versus firm creation green appeal on consumers' behavior intentions to dine in a green restaurants. And specific study objective is to investigate the effect of appeal type, which is the main effect of co-creation versus firm creations on the behavior intention. And second objective is to test the interaction effect between this appeal type and customers' green involvement level. And then the third hypothesis and also third objective is how those 3 key variables jointly influence customers' green behavior intentions. So we are going to see 2 by 2 by 2 effect simultaneously onto our dependent variable, which is behavior intentions. Next slide. Okay, so now we go straight into the methodology. I'm going to explain details about how I designed this experimental research. So again, this is vectorial design. We have 3 different factors. And in order to operationalize this research design, we use a scenario-based online experiment survey. So setting, again, as I mentioned, 2 by 2 by 2. So we have total of 8 different conditions. So in order to manipulate the appeal type, which is co-creation versus firm creations, we use 2 different types of colored advertisements. I'm going to show you the detailed contents of the advertisement in a minute. And then secondly, we have green reputation. So we use 2 different scenarios to manipulate a restaurant's green reputations, weak versus strong. And then another factor we use is customers' green involvement, right? So we use 4 different items, and then we measured each participant's the green involvement level. And using the median score, we split them into the 2 different groups, which is a high green involvement group and low green involvement group. Next slide, please. So this is, as I'm going to explain the details and how we can develop the scenarios and advertisement, which we call stimuli, this research. So first is the appeal type. So as you see from the table, we have two different messages: co-creation advertisement message and firm creation advertisement message. This is rendered by manipulating their advertisement main titles and subtitles and main contents and close a sentence. For the co-creation advertisement message, we focus on emphasizing the collaborative relationship between the companies and customers. And in firm creations advertisement, we highlighted the role of customers as a final users instead of the collaborators. So in the title, in the co-creation advertisement message, we use the restaurant names. The Harbor Place is committed to creating environmental value with the customers like you. And also we mention about share your ideas with us. And in the main context, we use the sentences such as like our green services process as developed through the collaborations with our customers. Versus in firm creations, we render a little bit differently. Like as you see the subtitle, we mention, do you want to contribute to the environmental protections while eating? Come and see how we do. Or in the main text, we mentioned that our green service process is developed by our management team and so on. So that's how we develop our advertisement and stimuli. And then the next one is a scenario. In order for us to manipulate the restaurant green reputations, we used a very brief scenario. And then for the weak green reputation restaurant, we indicated that this restaurant has environmental performance score of 2 out of 10. And the strong green reputation restaurant, we indicated that this restaurant has the environmental performance score 9 out of 10. Next slide, please. So in order to check the effectiveness of this manipulated scenario and also the stimuli, we did conduct the pretest. So we use online experiment survey using Amazon MTurk. The sample size here for the pretest is 78. And then, can I go to the next slide? So this is the pretest result for the scenario. As you see, so we randomly assigned the participant into 2 different scenarios, which is strong versus weak green reputations. After they read the scenario, we asked them to indicate their perceived restaurant green reputations using 5 different measurement items. An example statement we use here is, I think that this restaurant might be well established about environmental management. So we did a t-test, and then the t-test result indicated that the participants with the strong green reputation scenario reported that the Harbor Place, which is the restaurant we use, have a higher green reputation than those with the weak green reputation scenario. The next slide, please. And this is the result for the appeal type. So again, we randomly assigned those participants into 2 different appeal type, co-creation appeal versus firm creation appeal. And then we ask 2 sets of the manipulation check questions to each participants. And we asked them to indicate their perceived co-creation claims and also perceived firm creation claims. So example statement that I used was presented in the PowerPoint slide. And the result of the t-test also indicated that participant who reviewed the co-creations appeal reported higher perceived co-creation claims. However, the participant who reviewed the firm creation message, they reported a higher score for their perceptions of firm creation claims. So through these 2 pretest results, we can mention that, we can say that our manipulation has been successful. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So with this well-developed stimuli and also the scenario, now we conducted the main study experiment. So this is the process or flow chart of how we conducted the main experimental design of the study. So the first step, we ask a screening question to the participants in order to find the qualified participants. So they need to be over 18 years old or older, right? And then currently residents in the United States. And we also require them to have dining experience within a month so that they can have some they can recall the situations so that they can submerged into the scenarios. And then we randomly assigned each participant into 2 different scenarios, weak versus strong green reputations. And then after they review the scenario, they again randomly assign to either one of the advertisement, which is co-creation versus firm creation message. After they review the scenarios and also the advertisement, we ask them to fill out the survey, and that has a series of questions. So first of all, we ask the manipulation check questions as we did in the pre-test. So we measured their perceived restaurant green reputations and co-creation claims versus firm creation claims. And then for the data analysis for this particular part, we use t-test. And then we also ask our dependent variable, which is green behavior intention using 4 different items. And also another key variable that we had is the green involvement level. So we measure that using 4 different items as well. And then we also measure customers' self-efficacy using 4 different items and utilize as a control variables. As I mentioned earlier, it is very important for us to control these situations in order for us to purely test the effect of the variable that we are interested in onto the dependent variable. So the literature have mentioned that a consumer's self-efficacy can influence their green behavior whatsoever. So it is important for us to screen that information from the model. So that's why we measure those informations and utilize as a control variable in our model. And lastly, we also measured our demographic informations of the participants, such as age, gender, income, and educations as well. And in order for us to simultaneously analyze this 2x2x2 effect, we use a 3-way ANCOVA as a data analysis tool as well. So I'm going to show you the result and explain how we can interpret the result as well. Okay. So again, this is the result of the manipulation check result. So sorry. So we use the same manipulation check procedures that we used in the pretest. So as you see, the significant t-test result, and this results are consistent with the pretest result. So this is confirming that the participants perceive the message and scenario as we intended. The next slide, please. And this is the result of 3-way ANCOVA. As you see the highlighted part, our first highlighted part is our first hypothesis, which tests the main effect of appeal type, which is co-creative versus firm creation message. And that was supported by statistics. And also 2x2 interaction effect between appeal type and green involvement is also supported, but it is partially supported. So I'm going to explain why is it partially supported in a minute when I'll show you the figure of it. And also lastly, 2x2x2, the simultaneous three-way influences of all three variable factors onto the penalty variable is also supported by the statistics. So I'm going to explain all of these details by showing the figures and graph that I have. So go to the next slide, please. So this is the first hypothesis result, which is the main effect testing of the appeal type. So as you see from this figure, so this is message type, firm creation and co-creations. So compared to firm creation, co-creation appeal works better in terms of eliciting consumers' green behavior intentions. So this is supported by the F-test, and you already seen in the previous slide. So we can conclude that our first hypothesis is supported, meaning that using co-creation green appeal would outperform the firm creation appeals when promoting green behavior intention. And go to the next slide, please. And this is the result of second hypothesis, which is testing a 2x2 interaction effect between consumers' green involvement and message type. And as you see from the figure in highlighted part here, the customers who have high green involvement, their influence of co-creation and firm creation message is different. So as you see, the consumers with high green involvement would be highly likely to have a green behavior intentions when they are exposed to co-creation appeal rather than firm creation appeal. But there are no differences between the firm versus co-creation appeals among the customers who have a low green involvement. So that's why this was a significant, this part was not significant. So our hypothesis, that's why we mentioned that our hypothesis too is partially supported. And the next slide, please. Okay, so this is the last result, which is hypothesis 3. So hypothesis 3 is more complicated and very difficult to interpret, but I'll try my best to simplify this interpretation. So basically, the hypothesis 3 is testing whether there was a second hypothesis, which is the interaction effect between involvement and message appeal may appear differently under the situations of a low green reputation versus high green reputation situations. So that is the result that you see. So first, let's focus on low green reputation restaurant. So within the low green reputations restaurants situations, we found a significant two-way interaction effect between the green involvement and also the message type. So another way to say is, as you see here, high green involvement. Again, this is interpretation within the low green reputation restaurants. So with that, the high green involvement people, the co-creation message appeal had elicited higher green behavior intentions. However, the low green involvement group, the firm creations appeal lead to a higher green reputations intentions. And let's take a look at the high green reputation restaurants. In high green reputation restaurants, we didn't find any significant differences, a significant two-way interaction effect. So we have no two-way interactions between a green involvement and message type. But interestingly, as you see, the bolded line is co-creations and dotted line is firm creation. So regardless of their green involvement level, co-creation appeal elicit higher green behavior intentions. So that was very interesting in findings of this, the result. And let's move to the next slide. Okay. So we just learned about the factorial design and how to design it, and we take a look at the result. And now with the result and how we can conclude this result. So I'm going to briefly tell you what we found with this the study. So first, through the main effect testing, so co-creation appeal outperformed the firm creations appeal in a green marketing. So this has supported the previous literatures that mentions the co-creations increase customers' engagement levels with the product and services, because it influenced customer satisfactions and attitude, and also the behavior intentions. And also, the customers with high green involvement react more positively to the green co-creations appeal, while the customers with low green involvement will develop the similar reactions between the different type of appeal. So this could be interpreted as, the higher self-perceived ability that is commonly possessed by the high green involvement people, they're very confident in their ability to make the changes that protect the environment. So this green co-creations allow the customers, patients, and this can reinforce their interest in green environmental protections, and that'll lead to the end the positive behaviors intention. Next slide, please. And also this is interpretations of, and also the conclusions about our third hypothesis, which is 2x2x2 effect. Okay, so under the high green reputations restaurant, co-creation appeal will lead to strong dining intention regardless of customers' green involvement levels. It maybe happened because due to the strong green image of the company, customers tend to develop a positive attributions of the restaurant's green appeal when the reputations aligned with the green initiatives. So that's why more innovative communications such as co-creation appeal would be more appealing to the customers regardless of their green involvement. That's why we didn't detect any interaction effect between appeal type and level of involvement. In the weak green reputation restaurant, customers has had a high they may have a high tendency to search for the supportive information because their green advertisement and their image of the or green reputations of the restaurant is not matched, right? So they try to be more scrutinized in the message more carefully, and also engage only in the appeal that makes them feel right. So within this weak green reputation restaurants, customers with high green involvement, they're more confident in their ability to abilities in environmental protections in favor of the business practices that is also empower the customers. So that's why they are more favorable or more positively react to the co-creation appeal. However, low green involvement customers, they have low tendency or interested in green protections. That's why they tend to rely on to the company or organizational interventions. So that's why they are more lean to the firm's creations appeal. Okay, so that's about my research. So today's sessions, I briefly mentioned about what is experimental design of this study, especially the factorial design. And by by presenting one of the research paper, I try to show you how we can operationalize the vectorial design of the experimental research in the real world, and also try to explain what appropriate statistical method can be used and how we can interpret the result. I really hope that you find this webinar session helpful, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Inha Lena Jong, for sharing your research project. I believe all our audiences learned a lot from your presentation. Maybe they develop interest in using experimental factorial design for their research project after this. Okay, let's move on to the Q&A session. Are you ready?
Yes.
I think. Okay, let me read the first question. What are the challenges that most researchers or you face when doing this experimental design method?
There are many challenges, I would say, but so making a hypothesis might be very easy for you, but how you can operationalize those study. So meaning that how you can design your experimental study to answer the questions to your research question or hypothesis is really difficult, because as I mentioned, there are many different extraneous variables that you need to control when you design experimental design. So not only think about your main variable that you're interested, like such as those three factors, and dependent variable. You need to think really deeply, like what other variables are influencing your dependent variable, and how you can screen those effects out of your model. That's very big things and big challenges. So sometimes you forgot about those control variable into the models, and maybe some of the paper journal reviewers mentioned that, for example, in a green behavior study, you have to consider the consumers, green involvement levels or green concern. That'll automatically influence your dependent variable anyway. So you have to screen those things. If you didn't include them, then you cannot really make the conclusion that those tested your result could be happen because of your tested variable. So many times they reject the paper. So that's why you have to consider those things, and that could be one of the biggest challenge that I have faced when I do the experimental design.
Okay, thank you. We received the second question. Let me check with my technical team. Okay, what is your advice, or can you share some tips for researchers, especially the beginners out there who are interested to use this method for their research project?
Tips for use this method for research project. Well,
maybe what are the important things that they should know before they try this kind of method for their research project?
Selecting a good variable and testable variable is very important when you conduct experimental design of the studies. And also another important thing is when you consider is sampling as well. Again, data collection is another big topic that we can talk about, but within the experimental design, selecting a sample is also very important. And as I mentioned earlier, you had to randomly select the participants and randomly put them into the different group. In order to do that, you have to design it very clearly. So many of the time, and also in this paper, we use Amazon mTurk as a data collection tool. I don't know many of you here may familiar with it or may not familiar with it, but that Amazon MTurk is a data collection platform that is offered by Amazon, and there are a group of people who would like to participate in a survey. And you as a researcher, you can be recruiters and advertise your research on that platform, and then you can recruit people. Some of the reviewers have mentioned that if you are using those online platformed recruited participants, that is not random. So some people say that, oh, yeah, that's only people who have access to online, and especially when they have account in Amazon MTurk. So there are many challenges coming from your reviewers. However, there are some journals have published that the generalizability of the result using the data collected by Amazon MTurk, and there are several references that you can use to defend those reviewers' comments. So if you're interested, and I'll be happy to share that, and so you can avoid those hard situations. So think about how you can collect the data. What's the best way to collect the data for your research, experimental research?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the advice. Mitra, I think we'll receive another question. Okay, are there any characteristics or factors to be taken into consideration in choosing the participants in an experimental research?
Characteristics or factors, it's really, the factors could be the things that you want to investigate it. So it could be the key research variable as a factors, and any characteristics, anything that you're interested in could be utilized as the variables. And but as I mentioned during the presentation, some of the participants' characteristic may not be able to utilize as a factors within a pure experimental design, because that is not random. You cannot manipulate people's intelligence level. Like some people are intelligent already, some people are not, right? So you cannot randomly assign those people into the group. So in that case, we use a special case of experimental design, which is quasi that I explained. So depending upon what factor you are interested in your study, you need to be able to choose whether you need to use a pure experimental design versus quasi and other type, and so on. So that's something that you need to take into a considerations when you are thinking of the variables. And also that is also linked to how what group of people you are choosing for your experimental study as well. So I hope that makes
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Yinha.
Yeah.
Final question. We have final question. They're interested with your experimental design. In your opinion, how do you see experimental design potential in the tourism industry?
Tourism industry, well, and overall the hospitality industry, I think there are many room to explore using the experimental design, because we are the social scientists. So we wanted to investigate consumers' behaviors and their psychology, how they think and how their thinking process affect their behavior. So in order to clearly find out what they do, linked to what they think, experimental design needs to be conducted. So I think there are great potential that experimental design to be utilized in the futures. And I don't know, Dr. Kim already mentioned that AI is utilizing. So you can also use some sort of AI utilizations, and that could be combined with the experimental design of the studies, and you can further develop and more sophisticated design of the experimental research. So that could be conducted, I think.
Yeah, that sounds interesting to combine AI and also
Yes.
factorial design experimental. Yeah, I think that's all for today. Q&A session. Thank you for your very insightful answers. We hope all audiences learn something new today related to AI, data analytics, as well as experimental factorial design. To both speakers, thank you again. It was a pleasure to have you with us today. Just wait for a moment. We will have a photo session later. Okay, to all attendees, including those from your ITM, don't forget to scan the QR code shows on the screen and fill up the attendance form. It was a pleasure to host this webinar, and I wish all a pleasant day. Thank you for participating in this webinar. Hope to see you again in the next webinar. Stay safe and stay well. Thank you. Yeah.